Islam Dwayne Bey. Rhonda Arrington-Bey is March the 16th, 2019. I'm at Whole Foods in Annapolis, Maryland. As a Hebrew Muslim, as your wife's lifetime, and my nationality is Moorish American. I'm about to read Article 1, Section 3, no, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 of the U.S.A. Constitution of 1787. Also, I'm going to start off by reading the preamble. It says, "We, the people of the United States," and actually, as I said that, I felt a dull, sharp pain here, and this is in the back of my cranium, slightly, okay? Actually, it was simultaneously as the pale skin on the right of me stood up, and I heard someone speak in the background. So I'm just giving testimony about that as I read this organic instrument that this country was built on, or part of what this country was built on. Before this country, there was the Iroquois Confederation. Before this instrument was created, there was the Articles of Confederation of 1778, the Declaration of Independence of 1776, and then the Articles of Association of 1774. Okay, so, and once again, Annapolis, Maryland has a Army base here, Fort Meade, and a Navy base, and I guess a Marine. I don't know if these bases are operating under a foreign jurisdiction. That means they haven't, I don't know if they've taken an oath or affirmed to uphold the Constitution, or if they are in all the amendments that go with the Constitution, the proclamations, Abraham Lincoln, 13th Amendment, 20 sections, Abraham Lincoln's proclamations, or if they are operating under a foreign jurisdiction. And that means if they're operating under a foreign jurisdiction, then you have to look at the commander-in-chief and wonder if he's been naturalized, and is he operating under a foreign jurisdiction as well. Now I'm about to read the jurisdiction that, as a Hebrew Muslim, I am navigating under. So I'm going to start off by reading the preamble of the Constitution of 1787. It says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." And then it says, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 4. It says, "Representatives and direct taxes shall be appointed or apportioned among the several states, which may be included within the Union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of the persons, of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least one representative, and until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3. Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence Plantation 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. Okay? Now I'm going to read an explanation of Article 1, Section 2 of Clause 3. Okay? This is an explanation of defining what that article, that section and clause mean. It says the 3/5 rule does not directly affect litigation today, but it affects how scholars interpret the apportionment requirement for direct taxes. It has been argued, for example, that the direct tax clause should be ignored because they are tainted by slavery, or because with slavery ended, there is no longer reason to honor any part of the compromise. In light of the entire history that led to the Revolution and the Constitution, however, it would go too far to assume that in a world without slavery, the founders would have been indifferent to the dangers of national taxation. Furthermore, understood in context, the apportionment rule was not pro-slavery. Even though slaves were property under the laws of the southern states, the Constitution itself acknowledged that they were persons. In addition, by tying both representation and direct taxation to apportionment, the framers removed any sectional benefit and thus any pro-slavery intent from the special counting rule. Representatives in direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. The 3/5 rule for counting slaves is often misunderstood. When the Constitutional Convention debated the issue of how to count population for the purpose of representation, the Southern delegates to the convention would have been pleased if non-voting slaves had been counted as full persons. That way, the Southern states would have had a greater representation in the House of Representatives. In contrast, some Northern delegates resisted counting slaves at all. Why? Asked Elbridge Gerry. The blacks who were property in the South be in the rule of representation more than the cattle and horse of the North. Among other things, counting slaves provided an incentive to import still more slaves. Nor was the 3/5 rule new at the convention. It was derived from a mechanism adopted in 1783 to apportion requisitions. The national government's only revenue source under the Articles of Confederation among the states. That rule was intended to provide rough equality between the North and the South, and when the idea first appeared at the convention, no one suggested that another fraction would be more appropriate. Indeed, The rule was included in a June 11th motion by James Wilson of Pennsylvania and second by Charles Pinckney of South Carolina, suggesting that a compromise had already occurred behind the scenes. By itself, however, the 3/5 compromise for representation was not enough. Facing deadlock at the convention, Governor Morris, representing Pennsylvania, moved on July 12th to add a proviso that taxation shall be in proportion to representation, later limited to direct taxation, the purpose of which, wrote James Madison, was to lessen the eagerness on one side and the opposition on the other, to the share of representation claimed by the Southern states on account of the Negroes. Morris subsequently said he meant his motion only as a bridge to assist us over a certain gulf, but trying apportionment to both taxation and representation turned out to be crucial. Slaves were to be counted as less than whites for representation, which was not in the interest of the South. Slaves were, however, also to be counted as less than whites for measuring a state's apportioned direct tax liability, and that was a benefit to the South. A fuller account of how the framers dealt with the issue of slavery can be ascertained by considering the other clause of the Constitution that deal with slavery. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1, Article 4, Section 2, Clause 3, and Article 5. Furthermore, the compromise protected the integrity of the census, as Madison explained in the Federalist Number 54. The states should feel as little bias as possible to swell or to reduce the amount of their numbers by extending the rule to both taxation and representation. The states will have opposite interests which will control and balance each other and produce the requisite impartiality. The 3/5 rule do not directly affect litigation today, but it affects how scholars interpret the apportionment requirement for direct taxes. It has been argued, for example, that the direct tax clause should be ignored because they are tainted by slavery, or because with slavery ended, there is no longer reason to honor any part of the compromise. In light of the entire history that led to the Revolution and the Constitution, however, it would go too far to assume that in a world without slavery, the founders would have been indifferent to the dangers of national taxation. Furthermore, understood in context, the apportionment rule was not pro-slavery, even though slaves were property under the laws of the Southern states. The Constitution itself acknowledged that they were persons. In addition, by tying both representation and direct taxation to apportionment, the framers removed any sectional benefit and thus any pro-slavery taint from the special continuing rule, Islam. So this to me is another clarification that the Constitution is an organic instrument built on the intention and law that is lawful of freedom, Islam. There's nothing about this organic instrument that suggests slavery or bondage. And this is Islam and Beye. My connection to a Negro that's under that status. It said even white under that status is not a nationality. You have to claim a nationality in order for this organic instrument to apply to you, for you to be in a constitutional fold, so that you can navigate with rights and not privileges. So when you're being taxed and you're not in the constitution, to be taxed is lawful. But if you're not in the constitutional fold and you're navigating under privileges, not rights, then you're being taxed as a form of slavery. Islam. It's March the 16th, 2019.